Hello everyone. We're going to talk about layers today and their association to vectors. First, we're going to set up our material board as a single-sided operation, 12 inches by 12 inches and 750 thousandths thick. We're going to use the bottom left corner as our XY datum position. Okay, anytime you open up VCarve, Desktop, or Pro, you will get one layer. The layer has nothing in it. As you can see by this page, there's nothing on the page. You can also look at the layers by using the tabs over here on the left side, or they may be here at the bottom. In my setup, they're on the left side. And you'll see that you can rearrange the order of your layers also by using these arrows when you've got more than one layer. The layers can be renamed by clicking on them or right-clicking on them, bringing up a box, and change the name to whatever you feel like, say, holes, or the outside profile, or text. I mean, it could be anything you have on that particular layer. The layers can be turned on and off at will by this little light bulb over here on the left side. Each layer can have its own color by using this little box here and changing the color of that particular layer. We'll get into that a little later. Let's draw some vectors. We'll go to the Drawing tab, and let's say we'll get a square. We'll make it 4 inches by 4 inches. Click on the square. We'll center the square to our material board. Now we'll add some holes. We're going to make the hole 1/2 inch. And we're going to take that hole. We're going to put it on near the outside corner. Now we're going to take and make some copies of that same hole. Around the outside corners. Now we're going to make another square. I'm going to put that square in the middle here. Okay, we have our item that we want in our design. It has 4 holes and a pocket or a cut through in the center of the square. All these items, or vectors I should say, are on this one particular layer. You can now see that the page has got some stuff on the page showing that the layer has got things assigned to it. Now you can turn that layer off with the light bulb. On, off, using the light bulb. You can change the color of those vectors by using that little box right there. We're going to leave the vectors all as black because, as you notice, on that particular layer, everything that I changed the color to, the holes, the square, the outside profile, they're all the same color. This project that I'm here showing you is we're going to show that you can assign each one of these set of vectors, the holes, the inner square, and the outside profile, to its own individual layers. And there's benefits in doing that. Okay, let's turn off change the color back to black. And we're going to assign these vectors to its own layers. First, we're going to grab hold the shift key down. Okay, now we're going to assign those by a right click. I'm going to copy them to a new layer. We're going to make it a layer called holes. Okay, now you notice that the holes have a double vector. That's because we've now got two layers and they're both visible. We take this one and turn it off. Now you don't have that double vector showing. The double vector can be a double vector, or it could be another layer that you have within your project. Let's go back and turn that on. Turn layer 1 off, and you'll see that all 4 holes are on their own individual layer. We're going to go ahead and change the color of those 4 holes to red. Now we're going to take and turn this off, and we're going over here to this layers, and you can see that it's red, and we're going to make the holes active. By switching these on and off, you're making that particular layer active on the drawing window. Now we'll go back to layer 1, turn off this one first, put layer 1 and make it active, and we're going to take and grab this square and we're going to right click on it. We're going to make a new layer, and we're going to call it the inner square. We're going to turn the visibility off and say OK to it. Now you don't have that double vector because we already turned the layer off. Now we have the inner square and the holes on their own individual layers. We'll turn the light bulb off on that layer, which is, you can make that a master copy. You can change the name here, and we're going to make it master copy. And this way you can hide the master copy anytime throughout your project process. And you'll always have that master backup right there on that one particular layer. And that's another advantage of having layers, is you can make a copy of the design that you created and hide it. And that layer will always be hidden as long as the light bulb's turned off. Now, we'll bring back this one, this layer, and this layer. And you notice we have the holes and we don't have the outer profile. Now, this square here, we can assign a color to it by going to this little box, and let's say we'll make it blue. Okay, now you got your inner square blue and the holes red. Now we got to go back and we're going to turn these two off and turn the master copy on, and we're going to make a new layer for the outer profile. Right click. Let's see, copy to new layer. We're not going to be visible. You can also change the color here at the same time. Turn the layer off or make it active, one or the other. You got so many options here. of being able to turn on and off things. It has you to where you don't have to keep jumping around. It's there right in front of you. You've got all the features that are scattered about in one area that can be used, and makes it much more user-friendly and efficient. Alright, now let's change that layer to outer profile, and we'll say OK to that. You notice it created a new layer. Now we'll turn off the master copy. We're going to select the holes, the inner square, and the outer profile. Now you can quickly turn things on and off by just grabbing that bulb up there at the top corner, and then just turn off what you don't want. Like I just turned off the master copy, and everything else is there. Now we'll take the outer profile, we'll leave it black, and the holes are red and the inner square is blue. Now each has its own particular layer. They're no longer all on one like the master copy. Now let's take this a step further. We're going to assign a toolpath to the inner square. We're going to make it a pocket. We're going to go the total thickness of the part. First, let's bring back my drawing tab so I can see what the thickness of the part is. Okay, it's 750. We'll make it the depth 750. We'll use an end mill. We'll use offset climb. And now we're going to go to what they call the vector selector. Here's where you're going to make the choices of the layers you want involved in your toolpath. First, we have to make sure that what type of vector you have, it's a closed vector. That square is a closed vector, so we're going to check off this box here. Now, we check off selected layers only on the select vectors, and we select the outer, not the outer profile, we want the inner square. And then we say associate with the toolpath and close that. Now we calculate it. There you go. You got your inner square layer assigned to the pocket. Now we'll go and create the other toolpaths. We'll close this box, and let's say the holes, we'll make those a pocket on the holes also. We'll use the same depth, same tool, same offset climb, and we'll go to the selector vector. The holes are closed vectors. We change this to holes, which is your select vector only, or layer I should say, not vector. And then we associate that to the toolpath. Now we calculate. Now you got your 4 holes. Now you notice I haven't been changing the names. You can do that there or later. It doesn't really matter. Here I can change this right now to inner pocket. And let's say this one, right click, rename, and let's make that the 4 holes. Okay, now we'll turn the 3D view off, go to 2D view, and we close this, and we're going to create a toolpath for the outer profile, which would be a 2D profile. We're going to use the same router bit we're going to go a little bit deeper on the depth. Outside, it can be either conventional or climb, whichever is best for you and your machine, that is. I like to use the spiral ramp. And now we're going to go to the selector vector. It is a closed vector. The layer is no longer holes, it's the outer profile, and we associate that to the toolpath. Now here I'm going to change the name to outer profile cut. And we'll calculate that. Okay, now we'll go ahead and preview that. Okay, let's do a little review here. We'll go to the 2D view. We'll look at the layers. We've created vectors on one layer, showed that all the items were on one layer, which is called our master copy layer. We turn these off. You'll see that the master copy layer shows all the vectors that we've assigned to other layers using each set of vectors. The holes, the inner square, and the outer profile. The holes, the inner square, outer profile. We've assigned each one of those layers to a particular toolpath. The inner pocket, which is the inner square, which is the inner square layer. We did the four holes to the holes layer. And then the outer profile, oh goodness, what a name. Let's fix that real quick. Right click, OF, profile, there we go. And as I was saying, we did the outer profile toolpath using the outer profile layer. And you can check each one of these by double clicking on it, go into the selector vector selection, and check the layers that are associated to that particular toolpath. And you also want to be sure that your layers are turned on. If you have them turned off in any way, like here I've got all but one, and you turn on the vector selector, it's only going to show that one. You can't select any of these others. You can turn it off, as I just found out, but you can't select them. But you can select the light bulb and you can associate it. And of course, we don't want that because we'd be changing the inner pocket. So I close that. We turn all the bulbs off, turn them all on, turn the master copy off. Okay, we're going to make things a little more interesting on your 3D view. We're going to add color to the toolpaths so that you can recognize the difference between each particular toolpath in the 3D view. First, we're going to close this toolpath and we're going to open up the preview. We're going to select the inner pocket and we're going to change that to half the thickness so we'll be able to see it better when it's calculated and done. We'll preview that to make sure it goes to half cut. Okay, now we reset it again. Now, you got your inner pocket selected. We're going to grab select the toolpath color. We're going to change it to red. And we're going to test it. See, it made the pocket red. Alright, we're going to select the 4 holes. And let's see, the holes are cut all the way through. We're going to go ahead and give it a blue toolpath color. And we'll select the 4 holes to make a visible toolpath. And we'll preview that. Of course, the holes are cut through so you won't have a color assigned to it. You know, colors are only good if you got material still there. See, if I take and I make the holes the same as the pocket, 375 deep, recalculate, and of course we got to reset the preview. We'll go ahead and select the inner pocket too, preview the visible toolpath, and now you got the color involved because there's material remaining. The color is only good if you got material remaining. Now we're going to select the outer profile. It's going to cut all the way through, so we really don't need a color assigned to it. So we can preview that. And it'll cut it all the way through. Now I'm going to undo that last profile because I want to show you something. If we take this profile and we add tabs to that particular profile, let's see, 4 tabs, constant, add the 4 tabs, close that. Now we're going to recalculate the profile, and it's telling me it's below the thickness, which I got a spoil void, so we're not worried about it that much. Now we're going to preview that visible toolpath. It has the material color to it. Now we're going to undo that toolpath, and we're going to add a toolpath color of yellow, let's say. And now we're going to re-visualize or simulate our toolpath, and the tabs should be yellow because it's no longer material color. We changed it to a toolpath color. There you go. As long as you got material visible, it will have a color added to it. Or you can use material color and everything will be in the material color. Okay, there are some other items within the Layers tab that I failed to mention earlier. We're going to change this to the 2D tab. We're going to take the 3 layers, turn them off. We're going to make the master copy active and turn it on so we can see it. These little boxes or pages here on the right side of the Layers tab, if you right click on it, you can actually lock a particular layer. Now that does not mean that you can't draw on that layer, because I have found out just now that you can draw on that layer and it will lock that particular item in that layer. Now I cannot change it. Now that could be troublesome in some cases, but if the layer is not visible in the first place, you can't draw on it. See, it's locked, you can't draw on it. It's only if you make it visible that you can actually draw an item. Of course, I'm just highlighting, so we'll go back to the Drawing tab, grab a square, we'll add a square on here, and we'll apply it, and there it's locked. Now, you cannot change any of these items that are locked because the layer is locked. But in my opinion, I would say that once the layer is locked, you shouldn't even be able to draw on it. Maybe that's something that Vectric can look into. Of course, I don't see where that's much of a problem, because you can always go to the layer and unlock that particular layer and then delete these items that you don't want on that particular layer, and then relock the layer in its place. And as you can see, I cannot change any of the items that are on that locked layer. So if the layer is not visible, you can't draw on it. So that may be why Vectric's left it alone and doesn't mess with it. But anyway, that's one of the other advantages of being able to have these extra features, is you can unlock and lock things in place to where they can't be altered. A thought just came to my mind that maybe with the master copy being locked, or a locked layer, you're able to draw on it to update the particular product. Let's see if that'll work. We're going to go to the drawing tab. We're going to add another hole. Let's say right there. Apply. And we close that. Now it's, yes, look at that. You can add to the the locked layer a master copy to update it. That's interesting. Okay, let's go back to the Layers tab and turn the light bulb off. Okay, so it's not active. Well, it's active, but it's not visible. Yeah, there we go. Let's get the right terminology there. This is active, this is visibility. Okay, let's unlock that layer and go back and make it visible and get rid of that, being I don't need it, or we don't need it. And then we'll relock the layer and we'll no longer make it visible. We'll turn them on, off, light bulb on, and then turn that off, and we'll make one of these active. Let's say the outer profile. Okay, so we've touched base on several things within the layers and the toolpaths, associating layers to toolpaths, and what some of the benefits are in being able to do that. Another benefit is being able to add, let's say we went to the holes layer and we make it active. We turn off the other two layers. Of course, you may want to leave those on so you can see where you're placing things. In this instance, I was thinking about placing another hole, but I'm going to place it on the active layer. Now, if I was to have the outer profile active, and I was going to add another hole to our design, let's say in that same place as I did earlier, you are actually adding it to the outer profile layer. You're not adding it to the holes layer. And I'll show you that. We'll turn off the holes layer. We'll turn off the inner square layer. You notice it's on the outer profile layer. So when you make additions or subtractions, be sure you're on that particular layer that you want to work with. So now let's go back in here and put that on the proper layer. you can actually select it, right click, and move it to the layer that you want it on. Now if we turn this layer visibility off and turn this visibility on, you'll see that the hole has been added. And it's a bigger hole, but that doesn't really matter. If it's the same depth of the other holes, this layer and holes can be added to the toolpath. Now, the toolpaths, once you've added this addition to this layer, you need to recalculate that particular toolpath, or you can just recalculate all toolpaths by using this icon here. A lot of times I just go in and update, double click, just recalculate the toolpath it's assigned to. And of course, like I said, it has, if it's the same depth hole, that's fine, you can do that. If it's not the same depth hole, you have to create another toolpath. In this case, put it on the same toolpath. It's only going to cut it 375 deep. So now, if we do a review, or reset preview, and do a review of all the toolpaths, make them visible, we preview it, you notice it cut the holes, all 5 of them. And there you are. Now, it's interesting and it can get complicated from time to time, but you have to just pay attention to what you're doing. Now, I appreciate y'all viewing this video. I plan on doing more and hope that this has helped you. Have a good day. You're probably wondering why the material color was colored on the toolpaths. That's because I've got it checked off as material color. And if I go and check it off as toolpath color, there we are. All our toolpath colors are there. Have a good day, gentlemen.